Okay. This meeting is called to order. I just need a motion to come out of exec session and go into open session. Stephanie, second by Sabrina. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Welcome to the Wednesday, June 4th regular meeting of the Board of Education. I ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for a moment of silent meditation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Trombetta to present the Sachem report. Before we do so, I'm going to ask the board that we're going to move one of these discussions, the cell phone tower, to old business, which is section 14. So I need a motion just to move that one item to section 14. Laura, second by Meredith. Any questions or discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Ms. Trombetta?
Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to see a packed house. So as a superintendent, this is probably the best time of the year right now. We just had our North and East prom this past week, and it was fabulous. What a great group of students. Sad to see some of them leave and move on to their next chapters, but both events were wonderful. Around the district, we have a lot of field days going on. We just completed our first Sachem Games, which encompasses our elementary schools. And I'd like to do a shout out to Joe Schultz and Amanda Stallone, who ran that for us. It was taking 16 participants, fifth graders from each building, and they competed against each other in strength and conditioning up on the North Field. And it was a really exciting day. And we have coming up next week the middle school awards and the high school senior awards, recognizing all the talents that we have in the district. Tonight is also very exciting because the audience is so full, because we are recognizing a lot of people that are receiving tenure, which is well-deserved. And we're also going to be wishing well to our retirees who have dedicated their lives to Sachem, and we wish them nothing but the best. But we're going to start the evening by asking Mrs. Saunders to come up with the PTA Council and recognize our Reflection Award winners.
Good evening, and thank you for having us. My name is Colleen Stewart, and this is Charlotte Green, and we are the co-chairs for the Sachem PTA Council for Reflections program. Reflections is a national PTA program in which children can explore their own thoughts, feelings, and ideas, develop artistic literacy, increase confidence, and find a love for learning that will help them become more successful in school and in life. For over 50 years, students of all grade levels have been sharing their personal stories by creating theme-based original pieces of art. Students throughout the county and throughout the country have demonstrated their artistic interpretation of the PTA Reflections theme in 6 art categories and in 5 age divisions. Using this year's theme of accepting imperfection, the students of Sachem created their own interpretation of this theme using dance, film, music, literature, photography, and visual arts. We are beyond proud to announce that Sachem School District had a record number of participants this year, 13 of which won awards at the Suffolk region level and beyond. I'm going to call out their names for their awards. Please forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Raya Patel. She won at the Suffolk region level for photography at Seneca. Xavier Lundstrom. Suffolk region winner for visual arts at Nokomis. Alessandra Robeo, Suffolk region winner, visual arts for Seneca. Kieran McNamara, Suffolk region winner, literature, Samoset. Tamzeed Hossein, Suffolk region winner for literature at Waverly. Anthony Toronto, Suffolk Region winner for photography at Seneca. Aubrey Hockadell, Suffolk Region winner for music composition at Seneca. Braden Firth, Suffolk Region winner for music composition at Seneca. Graziella Penta, Suffolk Region winner for music composition at Nokomis. Juliana Serrano, Suffolk Region winner and New York State winner for visual arts from Cayuga. Christian Garcia, Suffolk Region winner and New York State winner for film at Merrimack. Alexander Green, Suffolk Region winner and New York State winner for photography at Sachem North. And Braden Putter, Suffolk Region winner, New York State Region winner, and National PTA Award of Excellence winner for photography at Merrimack. Thank you, Patricia Trombetto, President Scavo, and the board for having us.
Just want to say one thing. I had the opportunity this year to actually attend the event and to see the creativity and the expression, the work of the students in poems and music, artwork was just absolutely incredible. So we have tremendous talent in this district with our kids with regards to arts and writing, and every one of you guys did a great job. So really, really proud of you. And lastly, I know we talked about taking some of the artwork and actually putting it on the walls in our program, in our boardroom. So let's start working towards that so we can display the work of the students. So
definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also just want to say, Charlotte and Colleen, years and years and years ago, we didn't really do reflections in this district very well. And Charlotte took it on, and then Colleen came out, and you two ladies have turned this into something amazing where not only do we have record participation, but we have record winning, and these kids are doing incredible things, but because of the support from you two. Thank you.
Can I just add a huge thank you to the board and administration and our building principals and our building teachers for supporting this in PTA and in the schools. That's why we're so successful.
Before we move on to the rest of the meeting, I'd like to acknowledge two special young men, Michael and Scott. Many of you know, moving forward next year, every school needs to have student school board members. We are very lucky that we've been ahead of the games here, and we've had school board members, student school board members for a couple of years now. But Michael and Scott are tremendous, wonderful, wonderful young men. They bring a lot of information to us weekly, but they are true, true leaders in their schools and in the community. And we are very, very lucky that they were part of our board this year. Michael is moving on to Alabama, and Scott is moving on to Lehigh. So we want them, we wish them well in their future endeavors, but we want them to always remember where they came from, and they'll always have a home here in Sachem. So congratulations. All yours, Mr. Scott.
Okay. Ironically, it brings us to our student board member report. So coming up on one of your last ones, right? Some of your last reports. Mike, you want to go first?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'd just like to say for the ALS Ride for Life, Sachem East raised $7,950. Sagamore raised $3,128, and Chippewa raised $400. And this is all going toward the ALS Ride for Life to find a cure for ALS.
Right.
The Sachem East Junior Banquet went very well, and the prom was phenomenal. And I'd like to say congratulations to the student government election winners for the 25-26 school year, especially to the newly elected president, Mila Piccolo, who will be replacing me.
Yeah.
Firstly, before I get into my report, I'd like to say thank you. And I think I speak for Michael too. When we both came into this, we weren't super, comfortable with speaking in front of a crowd and getting up on a microphone and speaking in front of all of you.
Not at all.
And, you all made us feel very welcome, and the Sachem community made us feel like we belonged here. And we just want to say thank you for that.
Yes,
This
thank
is,
you.
made us really happy, and this was a great experience the entire year. So thank you for that. Next week, we at Sachem North will be doing like end of the year spirit week. We're finalizing which days and themes we're exactly going to do, but next week we'll for sure be having a spirit week. Scholarship night is June 12th. That is honoring all the seniors who are getting their honorary scholarships, and that will be at 6 p.m. at the school. And new officers were elected for all of these student and class governments, and the young man who will be replacing me next year is Danny Collins. So I'll be in contact with him, let him know what to expect, give him a heads up, but that's all.
Thank you, guys. Okay, item 2D, I should say, approval of minutes. A motion to approve the minutes from May 7th and May 20th. Stephanie, second. Meredith, questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, visitor section, we have one form. Jennifer Calmia. Is Jennifer here? Oh, okay.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Calamia, and I come before you not just as a concerned parent, but as a voice for the many young women we have found purpose, passion, and personal growth through the Sachem Girls Gymnastics program. I understand tough decisions must be made. I understand budgets, numbers, and cost cutting. But what I don't understand is how we can look into the eyes of these young girls, athletes, who have shown nothing but dedication, discipline, and determination, and tell them that their sport simply isn't worth saving. These girls, including my own daughter, have grown through this program. They've built confidence, strength, and resilience. They found teammates who became sisters, coaches who became mentors, and a sport that became their safe space. Yes, gymnastics may be one of the smaller teams, but since when does size determine value? Cutting the smallest doesn't make it right. It makes it the easiest. And our children deserve better than easy decisions. If we need to restructure, combine middle school and varsity, then let's do that. Let's be innovative, not dismissive, because eliminating the program entirely sends a message to their sport. Their effort and their dreams are worth this fight. Gymnastics requires extraordinary commitment, late long afternoons, long practices, sore muscles, bruised hands, and still these girls show up with grit and grace. That kind of dedication should be lifted, not pushed aside. Please don't cut down a program that lifts up so many of these girls. Let's be the district that finds a way to support all of these students, not just the ones in the biggest programs, but all of them, including the girls in gymnastics. I hope you can help them.
Ms. Conley, thank you so much for coming out. Just we have on our agenda, we put back on our agenda on section 14, which is old business, the gymnastics. So it's something that we're going to discuss tonight. We have a couple of different options that we're going to be looking at. So there'll be a board discussion as to how we can incorporate it back in. It hasn't been, we haven't removed it from section 11 yet. So we still have time to put it back in, and there's going to be a full discussion tonight. All right. Okay. Candace Vericos, did I say it right?
You just addressed it, but my topic was also about gymnastics, so if I could just read it quickly. Good evening, members of the board. I am here tonight to respectfully urge you to reconsider the decision to eliminate girls' gymnastics from our athletic program. As with any other team, gymnastics is more than a sport. It is a source of discipline, confidence, inclusion, and pride for our gymnasts. My daughter Olivia is a 7th grader at Seneca and was on the team this year. While she has been doing gymnastics outside of school for a few years, this was the first time she did it competitively. She looked forward to every meet and always pushed herself at the next one to get a better score than she previously received. She made new friends and learned tremendously from her coaches. I understand that it does not have the highest enrollment compared to other sports. However, cutting the team would not only remove opportunities for current athletes, but would also send a message that programs serving smaller groups are less valued. We should be encouraging diverse interests, not narrowing them. While we may not be the same size as the football team, our participation numbers are strong compared to other schools. And yet their programs are not in jeopardy. So why are we? Gymnastics builds physical strength and mental resilience. It teaches teamwork, goal setting, and perseverance in ways that carry over into the classroom and life beyond school. For many students, gymnastics has provided not just an outlet for athletic development, but a community that supports their personal growth. I also understand that there are budget constraints, but I'm asking you at the very least to explore alternative solutions that I know have been previously suggested to you by their coach. These girls work just as hard as all the other teams, compete just as successfully, and love their sport just as passionately. Please show them that they matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Allison, any other visitors? Okay. Item 4 is business items. We have a consent agenda A through F. I need a motion, please. Mike Esternia, second. Vinnie Reynolds. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 5, we have a personal consent agenda A through W. It's a real big one. It's a consent agenda for our teachers. Any motion, please? Matthew Bauman, second by Sabrina Pikowitz. Questions or discussions?
Just a quick question, Rob. Was this changed from earlier this afternoon? Was the agenda changed? Because I printed it and now there's items missing.
I don't know. I'd have to look at what.
There was 2 memorandums of agreement on there. Now there's 1.
Yes,
So it was changed.
yes, it was.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Escape leading.
Good evening, everyone. We'd like to kind of start off with a recognition of a retirement for an SCTA member and her furry companion over here on the right, who is part of the Canine Companions. We have Lori Mulhern, who was just board approved to be retiring as of All Hallows Eve. So congratulations to her. We look forward to having her join us at the retiree recognitions, which is at the next board agenda on the 18th. Congratulations. And then also on our agenda, we have 45 instructional staff members who have been recognized and approved for tenure this year. That includes a broad amount of our teaching staff and our teacher assistants, many of whom are joined here this evening by family, by friends, by their principals, by their coworkers. We'd like to invite them up to receive a tenure pin and also take a picture with the Board of Education. I am going to actually read some names aloud, and then we're going to provide you with a pen and just ask you kind of come on up for just a minute. So I'm just going to need a minute to shift. Okay. So while not all of our folks who were just approved to receive tenure here this evening, we are going to ask when I call your name, if you would come up to the podium, and Mr. Rackus will provide you with a pen and just ask you to just come to the front so we can get prepared to have your photograph. Lauren Armenia, Melissa Azara, Marianne Cotto, Suzanne Jenkins, Danielle Lino, Cindy Maley, Lori Mormon, Donna Perez, Maria Poulos, and Nancy Roberts. These are our teaching assistants. We'd like to thank them for the dedication and support of our students and classroom teachers, and congratulations. And then a rather large group of teaching staff that we have here today. We have, hold on one sec. It's here, it's just in another spot. Okay. We have Julia Barlow, Jennifer Carpenter, Lacey Donlin, Amelia Estevez Credon, Daniel Franco, Lori Fernell, Anna Gambino, Rosa Gomez, Nadia Gordon, Danielle Halig, Katie Healy, Kelsey Ayadanza, Anja Jankowski, Vivian Kamanis, Kimberly Linsalata, Dean Logadis, Tina Marie Mikos, Justin Morales, Shannon Murphy, Kyle O'Reilly, Sarah Orlando, Anthony Pavone, Stephen Ragusin, Gabrielle Ranieri, Laura Rosner, Stephanie Ruid, Christina Saracino, Krista Saracino, Jennifer Sawyer, Daniel Scanlon, Karen Shank, Priyanka Singh, Scott Tierney, Marissa Vassallo, Brittany Weitz, and Michael Wittenberg. So that's a long round of congratulations to you all. We appreciate you, and we're so proud of you. Congratulations. Any of our principals who have folks here up for tenure, we are looking forward to having you join us in the festivities of the picture.
Oh, Joe. We're less than 50%. That's why I always have to tail off the landscape and the trying to, and then Kevin, you use Kevin. He threw a couple freebies for us last year. I used to. Yeah, I set it up on City Bank. You know, I had to send it. I think, but I stepped to the game. Good. Yeah, tomorrow, cut the check. So, I wish you would accept Okay, we're gonna continue on with our meeting. If you could just grab a seat. We have a couple more recognitions and approvals we have to do tonight. Item 6 is personnel consent agenda A through J for support staff. Any motion, please? Mr. Attorney, second by Meredith. Questions or discussions? Item 6.
Mr. Scab, I just want to point out, I think I need to make a motion to amend item B at the recommended action. I think the last sentence is misplaced there. It needs to be stricken. So I'd like to make a motion to amend by striking the last sentence of the recommended action in subject B, resignation of support service personnel, just for the purposes of it's an erroneous sentence.
Okay. A motion, any second? Vinnie Reynolds? All right. Questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. All right.
Now go ahead and
All right. So I need a motion for personnel consent agenda A through J for support staff. Motion, please.
as amended.
All right. As amended. Mike Sarnia, second. Matthew Bauman. Questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 7, we have personal consent agenda A through M. Okay, for administrators, any motion, please? Alex Picarillo, second by Stephanie Volpe. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay, we have a few recognitions here that we want to acknowledge. We have some folks here in the area here who have just received tenure. We're going to ask for you to come up to be recognized. We do have Mr. Kevin Miller. Mr. Miller has just received tenure as the Director of Guidance, Career, and Support for Students. Ms. Michelle Sarakis, the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations. And also Mr. Phil Terragrossa, who's the Assistant to the Director of Physical Education, Health Services, and Athletics. So we have a big round of applause and congratulations for their tenure, their efforts. We're so happy for them and we appreciate you. Come on up.
Sensei Diamond.
It's seafood. Sensei's crab.
Also this evening, we'd like to recognize in our third row back over here, we have Mr. Perlongo. If we could ask you to stand, you can raise a wave. Mr. Perlongo was just approved to be the next Winona Elementary School principal. And so he is joining the elementary principal ranks after having been with us as a tenured assistant principal in the secondary level, both at Sagamore, where he's currently with Ms. Johnson, as well as with Mr. Antonetti at East. And previous to that, he had experience as a teacher educator, a dean, and he's a welcome addition to our K-8 elementary principals. Congratulations, and he's joined by his wife.
Matt, can you join us for a picture? And while we're getting ready for the picture, shout out to Mr. Miller. He's getting married this summer, and we're finally getting to meet his fiance tonight.
I think we gotta get an air conditioning contract.
And one more area to recognize this evening. We do have the leave replacement appointment with 3 of our SCTA members who have just joined the ranks as leave replacement assistant principals, who will be placed in one of the secondary buildings for the upcoming school year. If we could recognize Ms. Jennifer Carpenter, Mr. Peter Strong, and Ms. Colleen Whitehurst, and ask them to, recognize them to join the ranks as assistant principals for the upcoming school year. And congratulations to you as well. Coming up.
We just gotta sit down there. It's great. Andy, come on, what the heck?
I just want to say congratulations to everybody. The reason why I didn't come down for a picture is I had my hip replacement surgery, so it's very difficult for me to walk. So to get up and down would have been too difficult, but I'm glad I could be here tonight and celebrate with you all. So congratulations.
Okay, item 8 brings us to contracts with consent agenda through A through BB. I need a motion, please. Mike Esternia, second. Matthew Bauman. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 9, we have many donations from a lot of our PTAs from our buildings. We have a consent agenda for donations 8A through K. Motion, please. Stephanie, second by Vinnie Reynolds. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Clarify.
I just wanted to note that the donations that we're receiving tonight are going into the Cultural Arts Fund, and that's why we're accepting all these donations from the elementary school, because moving forward, like Mrs. Sharakas has shared, this is what is going to be budgeted for them in the next year.
Item 10 is budget transfers. We have a consent agenda A through B. Any motion, please? Ivan Reynolds, second by Mike Cernia. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 11, Committee on Special Education. We have consent agenda A through B. Matthew Bauman's motion, second Alex Picarillo. Questions or discussions? And all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 12, I don't know if we have any monthly reports, but I'll open it up. Anything from the Legislative Committee? Budget Advisory? Okay. Understand that we're going to start the whole process all over again. We'll have, I'm sure, a discussion, and we'll be opening up and accepting applications for the different board committees, probably starting in the end of September. Okay, so we can get rolling, or middle of September, so we can get rolling with all the work that needs to be done.
Can we do earlier?
Want to do earlier than September?
Yeah.
Do we normally do it in September? Or we normally do it earlier than?
We're trying to have the application.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we could maybe we could add it as a discussion item and see, pick a
There's a
date
lot
and
coming on.
go from there. August is thinking? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other monthly reports, Mr. Attorney?
Just the audit committee is trying to meet to review the report, which I guess we're just trying to get enough members together for the 11th, and then we'll have, I guess the next meeting we'll have an answer, an update.
Okay. Any closing public comment? No, item 13. Old business. We have two items on old business. I guess we'll start with the cell phone towers. Something we discussed a couple weeks ago about creating an outside revenue source, unanticipated revenue source to help, with budget constraints and restoring programs and things like that. So we're going to invite some folks up to present to us a proposal to utilize some of our site-to-site polls for cell towers. Right? Is
And there is the green light. Yeah, I don't know. Might not have enough.
Yeah, you
We
can
might
come
not
up.
have enough, but no, that's ours. No, it's okay. Good evening, members of the board.
How many did you prepare?
I have there 11.
11. Okay.
I thought I needed 10, but sorry. I apologize.
Okay. No problems. We have at least two. No, actually, you need one? Okay. You need one? Yeah.
Okay. Does someone on this end need one? No? Okay. Good evening. My name is Tanya Negron with Elite.
Sorry, we have one left. We have a couple of board member elects. Jessica, you want to grab one? And maybe Dennis, where's Dennis at? This way you guys could kind of get an idea what's going on.
Dennis? Okay. Thank you for allowing us to return today. I try to keep it brief. We are a wireless infrastructure company, and what we do is develop sites in which they are freestanding structures and throughout Long Island. And what they do is they actually hold the antennas of the wireless carriers like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Dish Network. We also house some of the antennas for emergency service providers such as the fire district, police, and ambulance. And so what we do is make sure that we try to do the least obtrusive type of proposal, which everything is contained into one facility. And examples of those facilities are at the tab where you have a little blue flag hanging from the page. And those are examples of what the structures look like at various locations on Long Island in which we have standing right now. We have stellar references. We currently have a tower that we built over at ESM, which is a school, and they contacted us with the
with the intent to improve services in the area, not necessarily the revenue stream in which they will also benefit from. And in that case, they did have a structure that looks like a flagpole. I believe they did raise the flag on it already. They've also put ESM on the tower as publicity, so it's on there as well. And I believe Sharks is on the other side of it. It is about 140 feet in height. Every 10 feet is a location in which the wireless carrier would basically lease a space. So we have about 7 locations in which these antennas can be placed. And as you can see, the antennas they're not seen to the naked eye because it's actually behind these panels in which they're RF transparent. And so even the wiring and everything else you will not see. You will see exactly what you see there. Those are existing towers in which obviously they're what we call stealth poles. And they're not the typical structures in which all the antennas are on the outside. These can be placed in areas in which we don't have high traffic, maybe maintenance yards or anything like that. Again, we haven't analyzed every single property in which you guys have, but would like to open the discussion and maybe research as to where these things could be placed and be appropriate for the district. But pretty much that's kind of my short spiel just to open the door for discussion. You haven't had the opportunity to digest what we've actually placed in front of your hands right now. I would love for you guys to take an opportunity to read that when you do have time, and we can always come back and answer any questions you may have at that time.
We might have some questions now, actually, if
Sure.
if that's okay. Regarding costs to implement this, we already have site-to-site posts throughout our property. I think every single property, every elementary school, middle school, and high school has one. Would you be planning on utilizing what we have in place, and if not, what is the cost to implement something like this? Is there a cost to the district?
There's no cost in order for us to develop these sites. The only thing that is, I would say, a cost to you would be your attorney to review the actual agreement. But once that's negotiated and done, we take care of all the permitting, all of the regulatory items, permitting, construction, and maintenance.
And with regards to revenue stream, you said Eastport, South Manor, put one in there.
Mhm.
What are they seeing on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, as far as revenue?
So we just built that. And so the only carrier that we have coming on right now is Verizon.
Okay.
So if we have the tower completely maxed out, let's just say all the 7 locations, you probably can have about 20,000 a month in revenue.
20,000 a month per tower. Or
20. Per tower.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Questions, board? Alex?
I have a couple. I would like, I don't know how long this process is going to be, but if this is going to be something that is moved forward, we have to communicate with the community that this is going to be something that we talk about, maybe have them available for questions, whether it's a huge presentation that we do and then you stay for questions. We can use ConnectEd. We use it for other things. We should be communicating with the community that this is a possibility, especially if we're not using pre-existing structures and we put up a 120-foot pole in someone's backyard all of a sudden. Because
Absolutely.
our we don't have the space like ESM does in the back of their high school and junior high school. So
requires a 50 by 50 foot space. That's it, 50 by 50.
yes, but it's going up. How much?
It could be 75.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is we don't have the huge field in the back like they do. It would be seen by the homes in those areas, and I would like at least to give those people an opportunity to come forward and at least voice their opinions on. This is going to be a permanent structure that they're going to see from their backyards moving forward.
Right. That would be all a part of the process. And again, it's not something that will happen very quickly. It really doesn't. And
Yeah.
so I understand that you have to disclose pretty much everything that you do on this property or any of the properties. And so that is absolutely fine. We can make sure the experts are here in order to answer the questions. We would just ask that if maybe we can coordinate a little better with which experts should be here to answer some of the questions, we can have them here. Absolutely.
Are you planning on using our existing poles?
Probably not. these structures are site specific. So depending on what is being proposed, if your antennas are going on there, if the police is going on there, we would need to know that. And a lot of times the structures cannot structurally hold the antennas and the stress.
Yeah, we have nothing on our poles right now.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
and it depends, are they above the tree line of sight? There's a lot of factors that go into it.
All right, so that's something I guess you would evaluate if you see
Yes,
whether or not
that's what I
these
mean. We
poles-
haven't evaluated. We just are just opening the door for discussion right now.
Okay. Alex, you have no
Can you
question?
just talk a little bit about town and state approvals? Does it need both? Is there zoning involved in it? Is there SED involvement? Maybe that's our lawyer question, but since you dealt with ESM, you might be able to answer some of that.
Yes, so we did go through a permitting process. And so although we were told we didn't have to, as long as we had the state education board approval, we still opted to go through the local municipality in order to pull the permits that we needed. And so we did that way so that the public was also notified of what we were planning, because if we did it as of right, your constituents would be highly upset.
Do you know about how long that process took to get the state approval and then through the town of Brookhaven?
Between 6 to 9 months. And we
Stephanie?
also had to deal with Pine Barrens as well there, because
Yeah,
it's
different
a
land.
sensitive area, yeah.
You mentioned before that ESM only has Verizon. Could you give us an idea of what that would result in monthly? And also, before we decide where and how many to put, do you have carriers that are interested in those locations previously so that we have an idea of what pole would make, rather than go through all this and we're going to sell it to the community that it's a $20,000 a month income.
Opportunity,
But
yeah.
if it doesn't come anywhere near that, we're trading off that we're putting these big poles on our property. So my question is twice, is how much are you getting just for the Verizon contract? And then do you have carriers waiting for poles in Sachem?
So the short answer is no, because we can't represent that the district is allowing these towers here. And so in order to coordinate with the carriers, we typically do a lot of homework prior to, a lot of research. And so according to basically to your point, in order to analyze each of the sites, it takes a little bit more coordinating, a little more research. Right now, as I said, it's very early on. We just wanted to see if the public and the board is willing to allow us to speak and maybe just kind of look and see what the opportunities are. So the short answer is no. I don't go to the carriers and say, oh, we know that they're going to move forward. Just please analyze this and let me know. Can we coordinate with them as we're further along the process? Yes, we can do that as well, just to kind of give you a sense of, you know what, I think we know we're going to have one or two, or maybe it doesn't matter as much as the emergency service provider having to have antennas here, which in the case of ESM, they just wanted the tower and be able to have anything there in order for emergency services. So it's a case by case. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I can get the answers for you. And so in the case of revenue on that, they're paying $4,200 a month. So that's the starting for one.
They're receiving $4,200 a month.
The whole amount is $4,200 a month.
That's
For
what
that
ESM
first
is
one.
getting.
Mhm.
I mean, that's not terrible, right?
Oh.
To me, it's not. It's right. If you told me $100,
We want to, yeah, we want
right?
them all
No,
on there.
trust
The
me.
way you gotta look at it is,
You just speaking to the microphone for the people at home.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you?
The way that you want to look at it is there's 7 spots. It's like a strip mall. You don't want just one of them taken and the rest of them empty. You want them all filled.
You want to utilize it.
Yeah, so our goal is to get them all filled.
Thank you.
Matthew Bauman, and we're back.
Yeah, I know you said it. How long has ESM been functioning? So like, how long has it been up?
It literally has been 2 months,
Oh,
maybe.
okay.
So it's very early on.
And I was actually just there last week, and it's definitely not an eyesore. I'll tell you that.
So you're saying that you want to rent each space, right? Now, does emergency services pay a space?
They do not.
Okay.
They do.
And is this something that I know that the utility companies are probably going to be looking at things like this in the future. Is this something that you guys would be able to handle the utility companies as well?
So any entity that is a licensed FCC user, we would be able to discuss with them placing their antennas on the tower.
Okay, so in that estimated 20,000 per pole per month, you've already taken up a spot for emergency services, and that doesn't factor in?
They go on the very top of the tower. And so if
Okay.
you look at some of the examples in the proposal packet at the end, the whip antennas that you see on the very, very top, those are the emergency service providers. So
Okay.
they don't take any of the leasable space.
Okay, so the leasable space still stays at 20,000 potentially, even if the emergency services.
Correct.
And would it improve the cell service? Like there's places in Ronkonkoma where you just can't get service. It would improve that?
Correct.
Good.
It depends on the service provider. I'll say that. If you have Verizon and it's AT&T there, then it's different frequencies. They work differently.
The towers could also be painted, so if you want to do red, black, and gold, I'm a Sachem alum, so if you did red, black, and gold, I'm a flaming arrow, so if you put the flaming arrows down, I don't know if that's PC anymore, but it's drilled in my brain from Mr. Lazaro, so.
Yeah. Ms. Cesarina?
Yeah, so this is very intriguing to me. It's something that definitely we should be exploring. This book is excellent. It's a depiction really of what you have done and what you can do. What I'm interested in is what are you going to do, right? So as to Alex's point, though, we would need you to. You haven't visited all our sites yet, right?
No.
Okay. So you would need to visit our sites, take a look, what's feasible, what's not feasible, right?
Correct.
And then at some point you would come up with a plan. Hey, I can use this many sites, right?
Yes.
And this is what I would propose putting there, and this is what it would look like. So at some point you'd have renderings,
Correct.
conceptual artist renderings. Those are what we would need, along with the projected revenue stream, to then go to the public with, right? We need, to Alex's point, we need to show them exactly what this is going to look like, where it's going to be situated, and then why we would do something like this, and what we're projecting the revenue to be. So, how do we get you to do that?
You ask.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty standard in our industry to have photo simulations rendered. So that's not something that I'm not willing to do. Of course I am. You just ask and we'll get that done for you.
Yeah, so that was going to be one of my questions as to what is the next step?
The next step is, because we're in this public forum, is to make sure that you're comfortable with just going to the next step for us to research each of the locations. Again, I cannot definitively tell you which one works because I do have to do a little bit of homework. And then being that we do have the public here as well, they're going to generate some questions too that maybe you might not have thought of. And that will also add to the conversation as we move on. So I do just need for the board to decide if they would like more information and to allow me the opportunity to visit the sites, check it out, give you as much information that I can so that now you're able to look at it physically and discuss it with the public as well.
Alex?
Is there any charge to us for you to do all that work?
No.
Okay, I'm just making sure. We don't have the money right now, so we just want to make sure.
No, I was here during your budget discussion, so I understand.
One poll could cost $680,000 that we pay.
Yeah, so we do a lot of research. We
So-
really do.
So
We're
that
very
was
thorough.
kind of piggybacks on what I was thinking is that if you're utilizing our polls, and our polls are site-to-site polls, they were put up many years ago, they have nothing on them. That $680,000 that you'd have to spend, does that generate revenue for us? Is there a savings for us?
There would be. So if we can see that there's existing structures that we can use and we make sure the engineering of it will be okay, we definitely can discuss that as well. There's different options. I just can't speak
Sure,
to
without
each
seeing them,
location
yeah.
until
Yeah.
exactly.
Meredith?
Yeah.
Laura?
So then, with just approval from the board to do your due diligence,
Correct.
and then nothing would move forward until, so it's exploring a different revenue stream, which for Sachem is a good opportunity to at least, and not 100%, we're going to go through with it, nobody's saying that, but for you to do your due diligence, present it, and for us to make informed decisions is just,
That's
you would
where
just
we are.
need, okay, thank you.
Exactly. That's exactly where we would be.
Matthew?
Just one more question. So let's say you put up a tower, right? And nobody's interested and it goes vacant.
That's not going to happen.
Okay. Well, let's just say,
We don't go that far. If there is
Yeah,
one.
we would honestly tell you, look, there is no one interested. We've done our homework, our due diligence, and so this location's not going to work.
so my question is though, all right, but let's just say you build that tower and nobody's interested. Is there any risk to the district?
No, because within the lease agreement that we would have, if it's what we call a naked tower, we would have to take it down.
At no cost to us.
Correct.
So it's zero risk.
No.
Sabrina?
A lot of times when discussion about cell towers come up, there's questions about environmental or health concerns. Do you have data studies?
We do.
Thank you.
Plenty, and it's site specific as well. So depending on which locations you decide to move forward, then we make sure that those experts are involved. And there's a ton of reports and data that support that these things are safe, and that's why they're at hospitals and within church steeples, and they're in areas that you really wouldn't imagine that they are, and they're there already.
I ask that each of you is when you drive around the next week, now your eye's going to go right to them. You're going to see the old ugly ones that are lattice structures with all the stuff on the outside. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, I've never noticed that white pole right there. And that's a tower. They are everywhere.
Yeah.
And the new thing is if you look on the telephone poles, now you'll see on the telephone pole a big brown box. And then on top of it, you'll see a brown can. That's just a smaller version of it. And it's just for that like block.
There's hundreds of those.
They're going everywhere.
Right.
So next step is take a leaning from the board as to maybe setting up an appointment with our facilities people to our superintendent's office to actually see the different sites.
Yes.
And we have schools that have antennas that, that those big poles that aren't even open anymore.
Okay.
But, the poles still exist. Many years ago, there were some people that wanted this, wanted board members that wanted to take them down. We fought to keep them up, with
We
hopes
will look
that
at them.
in the future, we might be able to utilize them.
Absolutely.
So-
We'll check.
All right, so Patty, coordinate with them and, all right, everybody's okay with that? Yeah. All right, great. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Have a good night. These are ours.
Okay, our next discussion is the gymnastics program. This has been obviously something that's weighed heavily on many of the board members' minds. At no time do we like to cut things or eliminate things for students. Over the last couple of years, we've had to reduce clubs, which takes opportunities away. So last thing we want to do is reduce a program where kids enjoying it, even if it's only 8 kids in the varsity, but there's more kids on the 7th and 8th grade team. So I asked for this to be put on as a discussion item. Look at a couple of different options that we could do to maybe restore it, and help build that program, make it bigger and better, and in the most efficient way. So, Patty, we'll turn it over to you and talk about the different options you present to the board.
Sure. So we did not cut it through Section 11, so it is still scheduled as a SACHM sport. The other option that our 2 athletic directors are looking into is partnering with Pat Med to see if we can do a combined team and transport the students over there. So right now, those are the 2 options we're looking at to present to the board. With the Pat Med option, it would be paying for the assistant coach. They would be paying for the head coach, so it would still be at a cost to us in addition to the transportation.
Option 2 would be to run it
Option
ourselves.
2 would run it ourselves at one of the high schools like we have in the past.
All right, and do we have a cost difference between the 2?
The cost difference between the 2, I believe, came out to $12,000 additional for running it in-house.
Okay. All right, questions from the board? Alex?
So just a couple facts. We underspent this year's budget by $12 million. There was an issue with a candidate this year that fell out. We had to reprint the ballots, and magically we found $10,000 to reprint ballots, and that was unanimous automatic. Last year, we also had to revote after the budget went down. There is money. It's ridiculous to say there's not. It should not be taken out on the kids. I've had the same talking points about cheer and dance. You cannot pick one or the other. You cannot pit one against the other. They're just as important as everybody else is. It's like mind-boggling that this is even on here. I know that everyone's not on the same page as me, and that's fine, but I will never vote to split and send them off to another school. We are too big for that. Nobody wants to wear a Pat Med uniform from Sachem. Nobody wants to. My suggestion is if there's a lack of interest, combine it for the year, see if we can grow the program, and don't even think about cutting it. That's my suggestion.
And I think that's, yeah. Yeah, and that's been some of the discussion that we've had over the last couple of weeks about how can we restore it. So, like I said, this is not something that we want to cut. It's not something that we don't want to be in the fiscal condition that we're in. But at the end of the day, like I said, tough decisions have to be made. We want to make sure that those decisions that are made are the least impactful on kids. And that's why we're having this discussion. So, Laura?
So, and again, I've been on the board a long time. I have one meeting left after this. And I've never, ever, ever wanted to cut anything that affected kids, ever. But I've also been on the audit committee when we went through financial crisis, and we were told by our auditors that the state was going to come in because we were in danger of not making payroll, and we would be like Hempstead facing a state takeover and be on austerity, and we would just provide education, no sports, no clubs, no nothing. So those are the two things. When you sit here, I would love to sit here and just say things that make people clap for me. That would be great. But I have been on the audit side of things when we had 16,000 left in reserves and we were one month away from not making payroll. And that is not a lie. That is not an exaggeration. That happened in Sachem. So when we say we're cutting things that affect kids, none of us wants to do that. I don't want to cut things that affect kids. I don't want to close schools. I don't want to cut teachers. I don't want to lay anybody off. I don't want to pierce the tax cap. I don't want to raise taxes, but our budget is not sustainable. So if we can't sustain the budget by what we collect in revenue, the same thing is going to happen, and then Sachem will be left exactly where we were, within danger of cutting everything. And that's something that I cannot lay my head on my pillow at night knowing could be a possibility. So looking at things for revenue, looking at things to increase revenue, looking at things other than it raising taxes or piercing a tax cap, those are things that we are trying to do. How can we raise revenue so we don't affect programs for kids? So yes, it is 12,000 here or 10,000 there, but when you add it all up, if we can't sustain a $380 million budget, yes, we had to reprint the ballots because that was on the advice of attorney. If we didn't do that and the election was overturned, it would have cost us 100 million times worth that money. So that was on the advice of counsel. Not that we found the money out of the air, but because we have reserves for emergencies, which in things like this are the case. So I'm not going to argue. I don't want to fight, but I just want everybody to know I did not volunteer for 25 years in Sachem because I don't want things for kids. I have volunteered because that is what I want. I want the same opportunities my kids had when they went here. I want everything for all of you, but I don't want a state takeover coming because we can't make payroll. So those are the two things that weigh on me as a board trustee. So I'm happy that we can put back in the program. No, I would never want a Sachem kid to wear a Pat Med uniform, ever. But there are districts out east or other places that have to consolidate. If there's a way for us not to do that, of course we're going to do it. But just remember, at some point, if we can't sustain it, we're not just talking about gymnastics being cut. We're talking about losing a lot more in Sachem. Thank you.
So I just want to weigh in. I know we've had this discussion in $380 million budget. It's a large budget. We charged our administration not too long, a couple of months ago, with renting auditoriums. Okay. And the auditoriums, we envisioned that we were going to make $100,000 a year. All right. And we've surpassed that just in the projection. Okay. Just with the few times that we rented our auditoriums for dance events and things like that.
We're looking at approximately $250,000.
Yeah.
We made $30,000 in just one weekend.
Yeah. So what I'm going to propose is that I agree. I don't want any of our kids wearing my niece and nephew went to Pat Med. Have nothing bad to say about Pat Med. I don't want to see Sachem kids wearing a Pat Med uniform either. I'm going to propose that we take $12,000, okay, out of that projected number, okay, and we restore gymnastics with the understanding that we're going to make it a 7 through 12 program, okay, so that we're able to really build the program with our younger kids. Cost differential, yeah. Yeah. So what is the total cost?
I don't have the full cost. I can get it from Gary and Phil, but it's more than 12. The 12 was the differential between Pat Med and keeping it.
Okay, all right, so it's 22? 22, and would that include 7 through 12?
We'd be,
Understand,
we'd be
we
looking
pay-
to move student,
But we pay
our
a coach's
athletes up.
stipend, okay, for 7th and 8th grade, correct? So we wouldn't have that coach's stipend, we would have the varsity, they'd all be on that varsity level? Is that correct?
As long as they pass the sports testing to come up, as long as they were physically able to participate on a higher level, we'd be moving them up.
Yeah, and it would boost the enrollment, obviously, if we included we have students right now with 8th graders in the cheerleading squads and the field hockey teams and things like that. So once again, that would reduce that $22,000 cost if we went to one group. Is that correct?
Michelle, the 22 is for the varsity.
That was what we projected, was the low enrollment that we were eliminating.
Yeah, so
originally,
that's for the,
22,000.
I don't believe that's the middle school. I think that's the varsity because you're paying for the meets, the travel, and the coaching.
But what I'm talking about is that if we move the 7th graders up and the 8th graders up, we wouldn't have a stipend for that level.
Right, but we'd still be 22.
Yes, yeah, $22,000.
Question.
It just, when an athlete is moved up, it is the parent's responsibility to get them to the high school with every sport, not just gymnastics.
But that's if the child is really good and makes a varsity sport from middle school into a varsity level at a high school. The parents are responsible to get that child to that varsity sport. But if we combine it, are we responsible to get that child or the parent is still responsible? So if we combine this sport, I have a couple of things. If we combine this sport, then these kids who are middle school now have to try out and make varsity because they have to safely be able to compete at that level. And then the parents have to transport them. That's not the way it works?
No, if you're not making cuts, everybody can be on the team. They have to pass a maturation thing through phys ed athletics, which they'll pass because they could flip over everything. I can't even
There
jump
wouldn't
over
be
the
cuts.
fence these days, so they'll be fine.
Okay. So now the kids are going to compete at a varsity level, and like I have experience because like I've seen younger kids that have the ability and have been picked for a varsity level. But now if you have kids that haven't tried out to compete at a varsity level, and they're maybe not as good as a kid who would be picked to compete, are we setting these kids up for failure? Are we setting them up for disappointment? Now they're just gonna constantly lose at their sport.
Or they can practice every day and get better, and they can grow the program, and the kids that are good enough will compete. But if you take away the opportunity altogether,
I know this is unusual and we don't do this. Could we ask, because we didn't ask with our other sports and then we had things come up that we didn't know about. Could we ask some of the parents maybe like?
Well, we're not going to open up to a forum.
We
The
need
options
to
are.
be more
the
educated
options
before we
are-
make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're running out of time too.
Right.
All right, the options are I saw a recommendation from the coach today. I read the whole thing, and that was to eliminate the varsity and just keep the middle school and build the program that way. But then you're taking opportunities away from the kids that are in 9 through 12, so it's not really, I don't think that's a viable option. If we want to include every kid, the only way we'd be able to do it is to run a separate JV, run a separate varsity, or combine them, okay? Those are all the options.
So we'd have one team that would be comprised of 7th through 12th, and it would compete at a varsity level. It would be the parents' responsibility to get any child to that team, and it would be,
We would provide busing to events.
okay, but it would be the parents' responsibility to get them to practice on a daily basis. And it's one team district-wide, or is it? Yeah,
One
so it's
team
one team district-wide, and where would they be practicing?
In the past, it's been the one team district-wide for varsity and JV. It's at East.
Okay, so every parent in this entire
Rob,
district who's
I've had
taking
my hands
these-
up. Can I?
Oh, yeah, I'm
I know. It's everybody's jumping in.
Good, Stephanie.
Competitive wise, so I was under the impression that if we combined with Pat Med through these discussions, that our kids were wearing Sachem colors. They're not going into a Pat Med uniform. So is there a combination where our varsity kids could practice and, you know, do their gymnastics in a competitive environment, and then have the younger kids do something different? Like, are we when you take 7 through 12, you're I don't know the good word for it, but you're kind of making the skill set lower, right? Because you have to have a team of all different abilities competing at a varsity level. So what's the best opportunity for the kids? Forget the cost. What's the better way to do this for them to have the best experience? Because they're not becoming Pat Med students. They're not becoming Pat Med athletes. So I'm just confused on why we would bring 7th graders up to the level of a 12th grader just to save the program, when we could do a combination of both, maybe.
We can restore the whole thing. You know, I mean, what's the total cost? It depends on what would the total cost be, Michelle, to restore the whole thing?
We would have to check that with.
Well, not
Bill and
restore
Gary.
the
I don't
whole
have
thing.
that.
What if we had a competitive varsity that was shared? You know what I'm saying? We're fixing it by bringing it into one big blob instead of it being competitive.
No, I hear what you're saying, and then I'm going to reply, because I'm going to use track as an analogy.
Okay, all right.
If they go to Pat Med, that's varsity also. So regardless, they would be on a varsity level. But we do this with golf. We do this with tennis, I believe. No, not tennis. But there's swimming. So we do these with other sports where 7th graders are competing on a varsity level with seniors who have been playing since 7th grade. So it's not this is not unheard of. What? Marching band, yes. So like these are all things where, yes, you're going to have a 7th grader on a team with seniors, but they're going to again be competing with seniors, but they'll grow into that point. So for me, I would love to see the program, if this is the minimum of what we could have. As far as the maturation, my daughter had done it to play JV tennis, and it really is just a couple physical fitness things, a check from your doctor that they're okay to play, and then they're okay to go. What I would like to see if we do combine, I would love to see the coaches, and this has been a thing of mine since the beginning, of growing programs, that your varsity coach is getting kids to come in 7th and 8th grade, that they're maybe holding clinics for younger kids to come in and get an interest, where maybe the varsity seniors or juniors are hosting clinics and helping train 5th graders, 4th graders. So then eventually that if we grow this program, we can say, let's now have the JV, the varsity, or middle school and varsity, something of that sort. Those are just my ideas. But I know that we do it with a few of our sports already.
Meredith?
Michelle, I just want to be fully understanding. We saved cheer and we saved dance because of donations from our vendors. And we saved them for the coming school year with those donations.
Correct.
Okay. And are those donations in perpetuity, or were they a one-time deal?
They were one time.
So there's a chance that we could say we're going to save this now, and then there's a chance that next year we could be having the whole conversation, and it could be cheers off the table, dance is off the table, gymnastics is off the table. Is that correct?
Given the way our state aid has been, yes, that's correct.
Okay. So the boys' sports were cut last year. Boys' gymnastics was cut the year before, or 2 years ago. So
Yeah, we're not going to yell from the audience, please.
So
Yeah.
if we saved it, to be clear, if we all decide right now to save this sport, we are deciding for the coming year that we're saving the sport. And then each year after that, we're going to be back at this table making these decisions again.
It's called budget development, yeah. It's
Unless
do.
we get some kind of vendor donation. Hint, hint.
Yeah. Matthew, go ahead.
So I definitely don't want to see combining with Pat Med. Nothing against Pat Med. That I don't want to see at all. And I have an 8th grader that went up to the JV this year for volleyball and basketball. And the best practices he had was when they were training with the varsity teams.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I was gonna
So that's a valuable, I understand what you're saying. I really do. But it's not it's good for our athletes to be exposed to the older players that are more experienced. And those coaches did a phenomenal job. So that's where I am with that.
And I'm just going to piggyback on what Matt said. Oh, Mike, good.
So, Andrew, are there classes that didn't run this year because of budget constraints?
We make our decisions based on enrollment. So if there's low enrollment, then the class doesn't run. And that happened, that's in a normal year, any year. Budget, it has almost zero to do with our budget. Obviously, we have to make decisions if we have the money or not, but it's all generated off of student interest. If we have 6 kids that are interested in a 3-period CTE course, it's a very expensive course to run, but it's only for 6 kids where we move that opportunity to other classes.
Well, the argument we're making, though, is that this is a small sport as well, which is why it was cut, right? That there's small participation. If we're going to start restoring things, shouldn't we be prioritizing educational opportunities in the classrooms and before we start restoring other things like this? I'm just going to throw that out there.
We always want to restore educational things. Those are things that you want to look at. But once again, we didn't eliminate electives. We're eliminating gymnastics altogether. So, there are opportunities, but when it's just a few kids want a particular class, it's not enough to justify running it.
That's why I'm getting that the logic is analogous.
Yeah. But you talk about eliminating something completely. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is, like I said, I'll use this. Matt brings up a great point. And, my daughter's been running track since 9th grade. And on that track team, sometimes you get 8th graders, sometimes you definitely get 9th graders. And these kids come on as 9th graders and they're sometimes not very good, but when they actually pair up and they start pairing up with older kids that more experienced runners, they do phenomenal. I mean, I've seen kids come on this year, completely turn around and knock time off of their speed in their events tremendously because they're training with older kids. And with track especially, and I don't know if gymnastics runs the same way, every kid runs. There's several heats. Okay, so why can't we have, during a gymnastics meet where a kid goes out and does their floor routine or a kid goes out and does their balance beam routine, okay? Eventually, they're going to be competitive, and eventually, they're going to start to develop those skills at a much, much higher pace than if they were on a middle school team. So there are some advantages to that, I've seen it firsthand.
I do have a question because I don't understand how it works. So if we combine the team 7 through 12, anybody who wants to be on the team is then on the team, whether or not
There'll be no cuts.
There'll be no cuts. Yeah. Okay. So it's not like but what happens if someone can't pass the maturation?
They can't be on it. But could they serve as a manager?
That's not a rule that we're going to make. That's a state rule.
No, but I'm saying,
that's way above us.
But then is there like a 7th grader who maybe can't pass maturation who would have been able to play at the middle school level but now can't play because it's only a varsity level? So there's a possibility a younger child may not be able to be on the team.
So the APP that students have to go through is very different than it was in years past. It says maturation, but it's not based basically on maturation. It's more based on physical condition. It would be very difficult in today's day for students not to be able to pass that. If a student wasn't to pass that, it's because of a safety issue, and we certainly wouldn't want to put a student in a difficult situation for their safety. Like Sabrina said, her daughter had to do the APP testing, and she was able to do it with no problem. Yes.
So it wouldn't be a question.
So it's not. It used to be years back. It would be more questions for a doctor. It's no longer that way.
Because in essence, you're doing away with your developmental program, right?
Yes.
Because you moved everybody into the varsity team.
But you can still develop
You can if they can get over that hurdle.
Yes.
And I will say the coach in particular is very vested in making this successful. So just like we ask teachers to differentiate within a classroom, I have no doubt that this coach would differentiate within his team for everyone to be successful and to be part of it.
Meredith?
If we combined at this very moment 7th through 12th district-wide, what is the exact number that we have right now, participation?
Well, according to the coach's email this morning, there was probably close to 10 7th and 8th graders, and you're looking at 8 probably varsity level kids. So you
So
could
we
jump
have
that- you
less
could-
than
you-
20
You
students.
could jump it from 8 to probably 18 kids.
Okay.
I'm just going by the email that we received earlier today. Yeah. Alex?
No, I just want to talk about growing the program. So as a varsity coach, I could tell you firsthand, volleyball, most of the varsity coaches here and other schools coach the middle school teams as well. So they are in charge of their whole program. So I don't doubt that our gymnastics coach can create a practice schedule and a game plan that will be differentiation for 7 through 12. They're going to be able to do that. Okay. And I just, again, I know that money is an issue, but nobody blinked. Whether it's Chris's, whether it's our lawyer's call or not, nobody blinked when we had to go spend 10,000. We're up here going in circles over 12. But if we were to send them to PetMed, we were going to spend the money anyway. So unless you're talking about cutting, and I'll say, and no offense to anybody, but if anybody's kid up here did gymnastics, we wouldn't even be talking about it. So you guys could say what you want, but that's the truth of it. Nobody blinked. Nobody said, what educational programs are we cutting? What clubs are we cutting? No, let's reprint the ballots because God forbid somebody sued us. We don't live in fear of somebody suing us. We've been sued before, and that's why we have lawyers, right? We don't live in fear of that. So it bothers me that we talk about money when we didn't blink to do that. It's the truth, Rob. I'm sorry, but that's
But
the
Alex,
truth.
once again, we got a legal opinion, and the legal opinion came back with to reprint them so that person on the outside can't contest the election and has to redo it. That was the recommendation. Nobody wants to spend the money, but
Rob-
once again, we take the recommendations of our legal counsel.
Rob, I'm involved
Yeah.
in politics. Every single election, locally, state, federally, every single one has been challenged. There has not been one that hasn't.
Yeah.
So that's part of running an election.
Yeah.
That we cannot live in fear of that. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
we can't.
all right. Yeah. Hold on a second. But there's different, and I had this conversation with our lawyer. There's different guidelines and rules for municipalities such as townships and state, and then there is school districts. I mean, it's very, very clear that the law says if you have the time to do it, and which we had the time to reprint them, then we are required to reprint them, and that's why they were reprinted.
Respectfully, I read that section.
Yeah.
That section is anything but clear. That is like the most legalese speak I've ever seen in my entire life.
Mike?
Just because I don't want the impression that the money magically appeared. Michelle, in essence, when you close the books on June 30th, it'll be $10,000 less than it would have because we had to spend that $10,000.
Well, we're talking for next year, and as we were saying earlier, we were anticipating about $150,000 from the rental of the auditoriums, and now our projections are leaning more towards $200,000. So we think we were going to have an unanticipated revenue source.
No, but I'm saying that when we spent the $10,000 this year
Yes.
to pay the budget,
Yes.
in
for this
essence,
year.
on June 30th, when you close the books, it's $10,000 less than it
Correct.
should have been. So the money doesn't appear. You get less fund balance at the end.
No, I understand. But what Michelle just said is we didn't anticipate that plus 200. So we're actually plus 190. If you minus 10 from the 200 that we just found, we weren't anticipating that in the budget either.
Right. That's for next
For
year.
next year.
Right.
So I don't know if we could just go around and
Yeah, we
take a
can go
leading.
around. Yeah.
I'm for keeping the program 7 through 12 out of the two options that was presented to
In
us.
Sachem?
In Sachem.
Okay. Just those two options. Yeah.
I want to explain mine. I think it's such a small program to expect the parents to fundraise through Booster and everything like the other cut sports were able to do. So like when they cut football and lacrosse last year, Booster Club took over the slack. When they did, we cut away games, the scrimmages.
Yeah.
There were cuts last
yeah,
year for
yeah, for
boys sports.
Just scrimmages, I think.
But it was still cut.
Yeah.
It was still, and probably the same amount of money that we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
So if need be, there's enough parents. It wasn't cut?
So just to clarify, we changed, if they did a scrimmage, the scrimmage had to be home. So we weren't playing.
There was no
for-
way, right.
But scrimmages weren't cut. They just had to be home, and non-league games had to be away. So we weren't paying the
But what was
officials'
the
fee.
cost for that? Do you know what I mean? Like that's the amount of money
It was a
probably similar.
savings, yeah.
But there was
Yeah.
no fundraising from those sports. to
But
make
I
up
know,
for
but the
those.
booster clubs do subsidize those two teams.
Not for
They don't
games.
have, well, can I finish what I'm
Okay,
saying?
but we
I
should
don't
give
need to
accurate
debate it with you.
information out to the
But
community.
I'm giving my statement. If
Stephanie
you
has
want to
the
make
floor.
your statement, you have a turn in two people.
I will. I'll wait. But
Thank you.
shouldn't give out fake
Thanks.
news.
It's not fake news. Alex, you're
Guys, hello.
campaigning. You can stop
Guys,
campaigning.
stop interrupting. One person has the floor.
So my point is, there's not enough parents, family, participants to form a booster club to be able to get the amount of money they need unless there's a miraculous donation like we saw for cheer and dance. So I would be in favor of carrying it for this next year because they're being given no opportunity to do any of that. And then we rediscuss next year when we're making additional cuts because we're in a financial crisis. That's it. So
you're a
for
yes
this
for
year,
this year.
yes, because of the fact of how small they are and they can't fundraise like the bigger sports can.
All right, Matthew?
I am for 7 through 12, all Sachem. And you may just find we might have a great program with that recipe. So I'm for it.
Alex?
So respectfully, I apologize for interrupting. I should have let you finish. But I do believe that we have a responsibility when we sit up here, that when we give information, that it's accurate. We did not make cuts for football and lacrosse. Those cuts were mostly for basketball and baseball, who had non-league games that were told that they had to play them on the road instead of home. The booster clubs in no way subsidize those games or scrimmages. That's the fact. That's as fact.
Can we once again be clear?
Hold on.
No, but
No. There's Robert's rules. One person.
I understand
I'll
that.
give you an opportunity.
But
to
somebody can clarify for him then,
Stephanie, yeah.
because it's not what.
I will give you a chance to come back and
But someone can clarify. It doesn't
Okay.
even need to be me.
Patty.
Someone can
Go ahead,
clarify
Patty.
what was
Go ahead.
cut
Just
last
tell
year.
her exactly what I just said.
I don't need it to be told to me. I need to clarify.
All right.
I know that certain things didn't happen in boys sports last year because of the budget.
And she'll update us on what it was.
So the scrimmages had to be conducted at home. And the reason for that, if we host the scrimmage, we are not paying for transportation. So that was our savings. When we sent our non-leagues away, the reason we did that and the savings we incurred there was because we weren't paying the official fees and we weren't paying for the chaperones and the clock and all the scoreboard activity. So that's where the cost savings come in for us. And that's the change we made to our sports where we saw a savings.
So there was no official cuts, but I'm good with the 7 through 12, keeping the Sachem, keeping the girls here, and hoping that we can encourage the coach and support him in any way to help grow the program.
Thank you. Vinny?
Yeah, I'll support the same thing as Alex just said. I'm looking at March 5th's budget presentation, right? We eliminate girls gymnastics, $22,000. That's all we're talking about, right? So we've got to find a way to keep it. So I'm in support of that.
Rob, can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
Okay. So if they're 7 to 12, is there a way that the 7th and 8th grade gymnasts can compete at the other middle schools from the other school districts or no?
No, because when you enter in through section 11, you're considered a team.
So to be officially.
So there would be
All right,
official
thank you.
team traveling.
Thank you.
In favor, 7 to 12 at Sachem.
I'm going to abstain because honestly, I just feel like we're setting them all up to fail between 7th and 12th. And then we're probably going to end up cutting them and a lot more next year.
Michael?
I'm a no.
Okay. And I'm a yes for this year. I'm a yes because in a $380 million budget, and I know where we've been, with $16,000, but that didn't come from poor planning. That came from the state shortchanging us. And look, we may, hopefully that doesn't never happens again in the district. But when we're looking at $22,000 and giving 18 girls an opportunity to be able to, not only restore the program here, but we have a phenomenal program. I mean, reading that email, I didn't know we went 6-2. I didn't know we had all county, all league, and an all American, and that's a huge deal, And to scrap that and down the road have to restore it and rebuild, I'd rather try and save it now and give those opportunities to this kid. So I'm a yes on it. So if we can move, direction 7 through 12 this year. Sure. All right. Everybody okay with that? All right. All right. Board discussion items, proposed 2025-26 Board of Education meeting calendar. All right, did you put it in here, Patty? Do we need to, it's not in here though, right? Okay. Can we put that on for the next,
It's these board meetings, but it's not, it's a PDF.
oh, where is it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I can get it.
Yeah. All right, so if we, yeah, I think everybody needs a copy though, right? Yeah, do you have one for everybody?
I put it in your
All
packet.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll take a copy. Everybody need a copy for it? Is everybody familiar with the dates? The dates that they proposed?
It was the board,
Yes,
it was the board
packet.
meetings for next year. It was in the Friday packet, but
It's the same, it's the same.
it's
two
twice,
meetings- two meetings a
meetings a month. Some of them are pushed back.
Yeah.
We moved one in the summer, pushed back because of personnel.
Yeah.
We're always hiring last minute and finalizing things, so we moved that one back a little. And based on when we had to do the BOCES vote and things like that, we tried to align it very similar this year. But it's twice a month, every month.
I ran it through AI. I love AI. And it didn't seem to fall on like the eve of any religious holidays and things like that, just because I know we've having it with our Jewish holidays and some of our Muslim holidays. So I did run it through. Thank you, AI, and it was all good.
So you just need direction from the board? Is that, everybody okay with the proposed calendar that was in Friday's packet?
Just to point out, though, the first meeting, the reorg meeting, is according to our board policy, it's a Tuesday meeting, so it would be Tuesday, July 1st.
Mhm. Okay. So no qualms, no issues? All right, we're good on that one. Future discussion items? Any future discussion items?
Rob?
That's, Sabrina, and then we'll come back to.
So now that the budget has been approved and we're going to start, kind of talking about next year with schools closing. This is something I had brought up when we closed schools previously. My children were just starting to kind of come through the schools. So I attended the meetings. And I know one of the questions that I had, being that I'm an educator in another district that does the Princeton model, that do we want to and have discussions about, we're talking about closing a school, a middle school, 2 elementary, whatever it may be. Do we want to look at the structure of our schools? That if 6th grade is no longer going to be in a middle school because we're closing a middle school, do we want to have a K-2 or K-3 building and then a 4 to 6 or 3, whatever it may be, the breakup? And then maybe in those middle schools, in those middle grades, the intermediate, I guess, to put, where we could departmentalize them within those buildings so the kids then are more prepared for secondary, 7th grade and beyond. Looking at that, I know some districts do a kindergarten center where one building is all kindergarten. Some districts do 6th grade centers where all of them are 6th grade. So I would love, again, I don't know how this would work with the demographer, where we're looking at those so that it's not just let's close a middle school and shove them back to elementary. I want to make sure that we're making educational decisions that are developmentally appropriate, behaviorally appropriate, socially appropriate, because it is a much different. Also educationally, being a 6th grade student myself in a middle school, the shift educationally, 6th grade has become more secondary. So I still want to see those 6th grade teachers who have become masters of math, social studies, content areas, continuing to be able to do that instead of all of a sudden next year, now they have to teach all 4 subjects. Because as a middle school teacher, some of my math topics as a 6th grade teacher used to be 8th grade topics. Okay, so those things have trickled lower. So I just want to make sure that we're thoughtful in the educational piece, that if we are closing buildings and what, again, it would depend whether we close a middle school, whatnot, just to have the discussion of looking at numbers of maybe we could make those 6th grade centers or a modified Princeton model, things like that. And not just let's close a building and move them. So I don't know if those conversations have started among you guys. But again, I think these are things that the board needs to start thinking about, that we're more thoughtful in that process than just let's close a building and move kids.
So I know when we meet with the demographer, Michelle has already started the ball rolling with that. In the past, the Princeton model wasn't successful at looking at because of our transportation, our size is the issue here. But that's not to say we can't do a Princeton model on both sides. So that's conversation for the demographer. We've already had a conversation, and it's very funny. Andy and I have talked about this a lot with our elementary principals. Some of our principals that have come from the secondary, their 5th grade are departmentalized. And then we have our elementary principals that are just elementary. That's and they want to hold on to those kids and nurture them as long as they can, because they feel like when they send them up to the middle school, they lose that. So it's a toss, but we've already spoken to them, and every single elementary school, all 10, will be departmentalized in the 6th grade if that was what was to move down. That is a conversation, and they know the benefits of that. We've had multiple conversations in principal meetings with them.
I just because I know a lot of people throwing out the word redistricting, which I understand, but I don't think people understand that redistricting, even though your school, quote unquote, might not close, you might be moving to another school because you're going to get redistrict out of Tamarack per se into Merrimack or another school. So this would be really the time that if we can, and it would be cost effective. Obviously, the whole purpose is to save money, but it shouldn't be just to save money. It should be saving money, but we're making sure that the educational and social behavior, all of those things are taken, account as we make those moves. So, I mean, just the board to have discussions of what they would be okay with, looking into studies, things like that, seeing what other districts are doing that maybe are somewhat close to our size. And again, just be able to balance that. But it's great to hear that the departmentalizing is happening in 5th grade.
I also think it's going to be very important that as the demographer does their work, it's constant updates to the board. It's not, okay, months go on and then they present to you. I think it has to be constant updates, so that can guide a little bit where you're going. And if you want them to go in a different direction, shift, let them know that. So it has to be something, the communication has to be there, not just for the board, but for the community.
Yeah, I'm sure these demographers have looked at both sides of it. I know that several years back, we did look at a Princeton model, and it wasn't cost effective because of the transportation. In fact, I think it might have been even more costly. But I know
we do have, they have 6th
But
grade
things have
centers,
changed. Yeah,
kindergarten
sure.
centers, things like that, that might be more developmentally with having a kindergarten. With a 6th grader over time has definitely, they're in two different worlds.
Absolutely.
On the bus.
Stephanie?
I know, but this is a question about this. When we had discussions months ago about hiring a demographer, does that include educational experts that have an outside view of what would be appropriate for this district? Is it just going off statistics and all that other stuff? Or should we look into also hiring someone from and I don't want to name states, but there are some certain states that have a better education system going than we do in New York and other, comparable states. But do we have that? Do we have that type of resource that could actually come in and show us maybe the right way to do it? Maybe there's something similar to a Princeton that might work better for Sachem.
I'm going to have Michelle speak on that.
So the demographer that we hired, they are former educational administrators of like 20, 30 years in the industry. So, and they do know that we are expecting them to come in. We've started sending them the data that they need. We're on hold right now. We're waiting for some clearance from our attorneys, but they know that they have to come in starting in September and report to the board and the community almost monthly, just to tell us where we are in the process and what their recommendations that they're leaning towards are.
Alex? Good. Anybody over here? Okay, so
On that too, is that our policy committee still has to meet in
Regarding
reference to
policy
that.
7800,
Yeah,
yes.
so we haven't gotten a date on that. We still have to meet on that.
yeah, if we can get a date on that as soon as possible. Mike, I know you're on that committee. Maybe we could reach out, speak with legal counsel and see when we could schedule a date with Marianne to look at policy 7800 as a revision, so we can include much more people in the process. So, okay.
Can I do future discussion?
Yeah, that's we're on.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if we were still doing this.
So future
you
discussion
passed. You're good.
we want update on.
Keep it on old business.
Yeah.
We could kind of that we could just revisit this on a regular basis, and we're getting the updates. And again, just looking at the data where it's not, I know it has to be numbers, but we are an educational institution. And we want to make sure we're doing what's best for the kids, not just we want to save money. We have to keep in mind that we want to do what's best educationally, behaviorally, socially.
Okay. Steph,
Can we give a community update about Union Avenue since things seem to be progressing?
We would love to give an update. No, Michelle will give that right now.
Okay, cool.
So PSE&G disconnected the electric. The transformer was removed. We got the official letter that was sent over to the town of Brookhaven. And as of right now, the demolition of the building is scheduled for the week of June 23rd.
Can we watch it, or is that safe? The community's asking. It's not, I do want to watch, but is it safe, like environmentally and stuff in those situations? I don't want to be breathing
Stephanie,
in.
we could put you in the machine with the wrecking ball.
Yeah, I'm totally in.
Grab a
But-
slice at Joe's, patronize a local small business.
But
and we
can
watch
the
them across
community
street.
watch
I'm
safely
sure-
somewhere?
I'm
From a
sure
distance, I'm
that
sure they could.
the demolition team will make sure that the area that's cornered off is safe for others to be around that area.
Okay.
Discussion items? Okay, executive session. I need a motion to go into exec session to discuss potential MOA and contract negotiations with a bargaining unit. Motion, Matthew, second. Mike Isernia, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.